The surrounding Maluti Mountains and their sandstone formations are a gift for painters, and many have made the local town of Clarens their home. One of them sees this countryside in bold brushstrokes.
What do I know about Johan Smith's work? Well, I do know that his art is often inspired by the beauty of this area, but that it is not a representation, but rather an interpretation. Intrigued? Well, here's his gallery. Let's go see for ourselves.
Johan is self-taught. He grew up on a farm in Zimbabwe and lived in the Cape. Yet it was only once he got to know the Free State landscape that his singular style was unlocked.
Johan, Clarens is like artist central. How did you find yourself to be here?
Well, it's quite interesting. I studied agriculture and I had a state bursary, and so I got this job at the Small Grain Centre in Bethlehem. And after hours I used to paint, and then eventually I opened up my own gallery here.
Well, you started with ceramics and then found yourself to doing oil paintings.
When you do ceramics, the color is always very, very limited. So I started experimenting with watercolors and pastels and stuff like that. And then I got onto oils. And when I found the really vibrant, strong colors of oils, I realized this is what I'd been looking for.
What makes your work different? What defines your style?
When I started with my oils initially, I started with the tall blue skies, and it became my trademark. The people started talking about the African sky that I'd started painting. But what's interesting is, although there's nothing much in the sky, if you have a look at the painting and you take away the sky, it just becomes a really mediocre painting. As soon as you add in the sky, you catch the whole feeling of the space that you have in the Eastern Free State.
Johan mostly begins with a photograph, which becomes a sketch. Then he moves to canvas to paint in his famous oranges, yellows and blues.
If you have a look at my paintings, I'm not trying to do a realistic painting. It's more about the feel that you have when you're outside here in the Free State Platteland. You'll see I've added in some sheep, I've added in some trees and stuff to get the balance right.
How would you define your colors that you use?
I call it my African palette. When I look at this landscape, I see it in my colors. And the people say, how can you paint these colors? And I say, this is how I see it. Even if it's winter, these are the colors that I see when I look at the landscape.
I noticed that you have a lot more texture on some parts than others.
Yeah, I think it's so important just to get different textures and stuff. Especially with the sky, I put on the oil paint really thin so that the white of the canvas can come through the oil. But as soon as you move into the mountains and the fields and stuff and the trees, I put on the oil with a lot of texture so that you can almost feel the rocks when you look at this, so that it contrasts with the sky.
He's had to learn to capture all the elements of that sky. The early morning quiet he experienced on a trip to East London, the electric storms he witnessed heading to Harrismith, or the late afternoon full moon on the horizon which he saw en route to Bethlehem. This horseback ride brought us closer to seeing what he sees.
Johan, being out here and seeing how beautiful Golden Gate is, I can see that you've got tons of inspiration around you.
I moved here in 1987, and it takes time to really be able to absorb the landscape and get to know it. People think you can go into a different area and just paint it, and then it's just information. But if you've stayed in a place like this, like Golden Gate and the Eastern Free State, later on you're able to paint the soul of the landscape. As you stay here, you really absorb the different emotions and atmospheres of the different seasons of each year.
I can see how passionate you are about Golden Gate and your art, of course. You make me almost want to move from the Joburg and come and set up shop here.
You must come one weekend and do a bit of painting with me.
Why not?
People think you need a whole lot of talent. I think you need a whole lot of practice and dedication. And that's the thing that carries you through. And you just stay at it over time and just keep on painting and really try and improve your technique.
To all aspiring artists, Johan says you'll know you've got it right when you can smell the tilled land in your painting.